There is no tomorrow. There is no tomorrow. There is no tomorrow.
Now, we just passed an anniversary. March 16th was the 11th anniversary of your fight with Ruslan Provodnikov.
Damn.
Now, I know it's crazy. Now, I think about you. You beat Manny Pacquiao. You beat Juan Manuel Marquez. A whole list of great fighters. But that might be the fight that people talk about the most.
Absolutely.
When it comes to you, first of all, I was there. I have the credential to prove it.
Yeah.
But I was there with HBO. Does it feel like 11 years have passed since that fight?
It does. I don't really pay attention to time, man. I just live day to day. But now that I think about it, 11 years, man. Yeah, it seems like a while, man. It has. I mean, since I had stepped in the ring, it was shortly after the Manny Pacquiao dilemma, everything I went through. It was. I think it was like I returned after 9 months.
Yeah.
I've spoken on numerous occasions about the depression that hit me going into this fight. What was on my mind was just basically to prove to everybody that has said something about me that I am a true champion. Out of it, all the criticism all the name calling and everything that I have ever went through, being called not a true champion, man, to me was the worst thing that can ever, be said to me, because of all the hard work. Like, people don't realize that they just see, the delivery or the performance, but they don't understand the years and years of training and preparation and sacrifice that goes into the sport, man. Blood, sweat, and tears. And you had the pleasure to be able to see it firsthand, and that's a day-to-day thing for me. And in boxing, it's not like a NFL or NBA where you have seasons and you have time off and all this stuff. Like, it's year round, man. So 11 years. Yeah, it does feel like it's a way. That's it's over a decade, baby.
It is over a decade, which is crazy. And you talked about the fact that I was there, and you and I have talked about this a lot. You were the very first 24/7 that I got to produce when you fought Manny, so I got to spend some time in your camp. I got to see how you trained, and I've told you this story, but the cameraman that we had, he had been around everyone, Pacquiao, everyone. But I remember the second day in the gym with you, we're shooting with you, and he came up to me and he said, Can this guy beat Manny? He said he's training like a monster. I said, yeah, man, he can. So that was after 2 days. This guy, was in awe of you training. But talking about Provodnikov, because people talk about this fight, and with good reason. It was the fight of the year in 2013. But before we talk about the fight, what do you think about when you're reminded of the Provodnikov fight? What thoughts come to mind for you?
Every fight, every boxer has that one fight that really sticks out, or they should. That was my fight. So when I think of Provodnikov, I think of just how I am today. That fight turned me into who I am today. It was like I said, it was one of the worst times of my career, going into that fight, and it revamped my career. So I look at it kind of bittersweet. When people bring it up, I go, yeah, man, I fought like a maniac, but a lot of people give me a ton of praise for that, and they say, man, like, it was one of the greatest fights that I've ever witnessed or ever watched. That's top 5, or they feel admiration, towards me, or they have admiration towards me because I was able to endure that much pain. Like, there's a lot of people that watch boxing that and possibly and even casuals that really are going through things in their life, and when they see somebody go through that type of traumatic and that type of pain and just damage, taking damage and not giving up, man, that inspires them.
Yeah.
When you put on those type of performances. So when I think of Ruslan Provodnikov, I think of a bittersweet moment. It was great for my career, but damn, it was damaging for my body.
Matt, Tim, I literally I was there, so I was watching it. I was in the production truck because I was actually I was working in tape. I was the video replay producer. So I'm watching this fight, and it was not what I thought it was
Yeah.
going to be. And I'm sure it wasn't what you thought it was going to be, but I just watched it again. I think I text you. I just said,
Yeah.
damn,
Yeah.
damn.